My name is Kathryn Quinn, and I'm the CEO for Caritas of Austin. With me today is Dr. Brenda Combs, who is a symbol of inspiration and perseverance. After experiencing homelessness and drug addiction for several years, she turned her life around, earning a bachelor's degree in human services, a master's in special education, and later received a doctorate in organizational leadership with an emphasis in education under a scholarship presented to her by Grand Canyon University. Today, she travels around the country sharing her story. Welcome, Dr. Combs, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I wish that I could be there in Austin with you, but I am still happy that I'm able to share my experience, and I'm just glad to be here today. So thank you for inviting me.
Sure. And I'll just jump in with the first question. Caritas's experience has helped us understand that when someone emerges from homelessness, it's almost always the result of various sources of support within the community rather than a single entity or a single person. Tell us about the support systems and people who were critical to your healing.
So my support system initially when I was coming out of homelessness started with my probation officer. My probation officer, I finally went and turned myself in, and I was prepared to go to prison. And my PRO looked at me in the eye and she said, "Brenda Combs, there's something different about you. And I'm not going to send you to jail because it's not going to benefit you or society. So I'm going to give you one more opportunity to get your life together." And she did not sign the warrant for my arrest. Instead, she sent me to the Center Against Sexual Abuse, and she sent me to take an assertiveness training class because as a homeless woman, I had no self-esteem, no self-worth. I didn't love myself. I didn't feel like I fit into society. I felt ugly, unworthy, unloved. I had nothing to offer community or my family, friends, or anyone. And because I didn't believe in myself. And I felt like I had this neon sign, that said homeless, drug addict, rape, victim. And I just didn't feel like I fit in. And so by taking those classes, that was the beginning because it allowed me to start to heal by telling my story. And it took me a year before I felt clean, human, like I could actually move forward. But that was the beginning, the probation officer sending me to get some therapy and counseling. And I will add, this was my 13th program that I went into, which was no different than the first. The difference was I had a different mindset and I was ready to listen and take some suggestions.
While not every person experiencing homelessness becomes homeless due to an addiction, we also understand that self-medication as a coping mechanism plays a powerful role in people developing addiction after they have become homeless. Tell us about the role addiction played in your life pre and post homelessness.
Addiction led me to being homeless. I became addicted to drugs due to a traumatic experience, being raped, being abused, and I self-medicated by using drugs because if I was in that altered state of mind, it prevented me from thinking about the abuse, the rape, the trauma, and also being coupled with the low self-esteem and depression. I mean, I even tried to kill myself. That just kind of goes with the addiction. And all of those things tie in together when you don't feel worthy, when you don't feel loved, when you've been through a traumatic situation or abuse. But I will also say that after overcoming homelessness, when I went into my 13th program, the only difference was in program number 13, I made a willing decision to finally listen and to take some suggestions. I realized that even though I'd been through all of these programs, they were basically saying the same thing, basically. I just was not at a point that I was willing to, maybe, I don't know, willing, maybe I wasn't even capable or able to listen at that time. But once I had gone through that last experience and decided, you know what, everyone here at this facility seems to be happy. They're smiling. And I know that they have life's problems, but they have something I don't have, and that seems to be peace. So I decided in this last 13th program that I was going to do everything that they said, and everything that didn't apply to me, I was just going to file it into my mental filing cabinet because I might be able to use it or share it with someone else. But once I decided that I was done and took their suggestions, the rest was kind of history, as they say. I then developed my own support system because I had no support before. I didn't know what a support system was. And literally, I surrounded myself with women who were in a better position than I was so that I could learn from them. And it was a slow process, learning how to have relationships, learning how to have a friend, even more so learning how to be a friend and be sober. And it has been an amazing experience on this side now that I am now 26 years drug-free. I never thought I would even be able to say these words. I have chills right now because coming from 10 years of homelessness, living underneath a bridge to becoming Dr. Brenda Combs is just, it's mind-boggling. But I know that if I can do it, others can do it as well. And that is even a greater message that nothing's impossible.
Homelessness is a traumatic experience, as you well know. Walk us through the timeline of your healing from this trauma. Do you remember a particular point in time when you realized you were on solid ground and likely to, that your returning to homelessness was diminished at that point? Tell us about any significant turning points along the way that stand out.
So there's a moment that I have in my mind that I'll never forget this as long as I live. When I was homeless, the people that were under the bridge, we became like a family. We didn't always get along, but we became a family. And if an outsider from another homeless neighborhood showed up, then we became very protective. And after I had overcame my homelessness, something kept telling me to go back down to the bridge to help others because it was a long process. It took me a year of going through sober living and living in halfway houses and learning how to get a job and to work and to start to rebuild my confidence. And one day I decided to go back down to what we call the zone. And I saw all of my friends down there, and my eyes spotted Pops. He's an older gentleman. He helped me tremendously when I was homeless. And I saw him walking across the railroad tracks, and he looked like a hobo because his shoes were too little, and he had cut the heel off so that the back end of his foot was sticking out of the shoe, but the front end was protecting his feet. It was summertime. It's like 110 degrees outside in Phoenix, and he's walking, and I can see his heels are scratched, they're bloody, and he sits down in the dirt. And I go over there to him, and he said, "Baby, when you come back down here, do you think you'd bring me something to eat?" And something inside of me at that moment changed because he said that to me because he knew that I was no longer homeless. Like, it never dawned on me that he would ask me to go buy him food. And so I left and I went to go get him some food. News Channel 5, the local news channel, was there, and my friend that was with me, we were talking. They overheard us talking about what I had just experienced, and I was going to go back and take him food, and they wanted to come along, and they followed us down there, and I bought him some chicken and something to drink, and I went and I sat with him in the dirt as he was eating this chicken, dirty hands and all. I mean, just like he was starving. And he said, "You know, Brenda, thank you. I really appreciate it." And he said, "I'm so proud to see that one of us made it out." I hadn't even realized that I had made it out. I just wanted to go see my old friends. And that's when it dawned on me. I made it. And then shortly thereafter, it was like, I'm working a regular job, but maybe I can help others. And so that's when I started going to like the dollar store and buying toothpaste and toothbrushes and hygiene items, and going to the Goodwill and getting shoes and backpacks, and going back down to the zone and passing out these items that I could afford. And my foundation grew out of that, Finding My Shoes Foundation. And I've been doing that for 26 years, going back down, helping others to realize that they too can overcome homelessness and addiction. But that was when it dawned on me, like, even though I was living in sober living, I didn't realize the change until another homeless person realized I was no longer homeless. And it changed my life. That was just one moment. Another moment, even further down, after I had my baby and got married, I went back to the zone again, and one of the girls, Rose, was sitting on the corner, and she wanted to go to rehab. So I had her get in the car, and I got my baby in the car seat, and then I realized we don't have gas, and I had to stop at the gas station, and I had to go inside and pay. And she was like, "Brenda, I'll watch the baby for you." And I had a moment of, do I trust this homeless woman to watch my baby while I run inside to pay for the gas? Or do I take my baby with me and maybe offend her and hurt her feelings? And something told me, you can leave the baby with her. I ran inside and paid and came back, and she went to rehab. She got out of rehab. She came back into my life. She became my son's godmother, and she's been an integral part of my life until she passed away from cancer a few years ago. But I took her to rehab, and she used to be a nurse. She was a nurse before she became homeless, and she became homeless due to abuse. And so it can happen to anyone. But it was a life-changing situation, and I'm just glad that I was able to show her, to take her to rehab, and also to get Pops off of the street. So those were very significant moments that I remember, overcoming before and after.
Okay, my final question is this. As you reflect on your homelessness experience, what is your guidance for those of us who work to end homelessness?
That's a great question. What I share with people who are working in the industry to try to end homelessness is that, number one, let me just say thank you, and I applaud you for your efforts, because the homeless community, in my opinion, is at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to resources and trying to make their lives better. The next thing that I want to say to you is that working in this industry, you don't get a lot of appreciation, but I can tell you from one former homeless woman that everything that you do to help homelessness come to an end helps people like me feel better and realize that we are cared about. I applaud all of the efforts because it is not easy. The one thing that I would say is when you're working with people who are homeless or working with an agency, is to mainly realize that no matter how bad their situation is, no matter how long they've been homeless, no matter what their addiction is, no matter if they've been homeless for 20 years or 2 days, is that everyone deserves the humanity of love, compassion, respect, and understanding. And it doesn't matter how a person became homeless, there's somebody out there, someone that loves that person, and it doesn't even have to be a family member. It could be a friend, someone from the courts, my probation officer loved me. It could be anyone. So the bottom line is what I want to say is never give up, because the change could happen in that next moment. It is difficult when it comes to dealing with homelessness because there's so much that's involved, not just dealing with the actual addiction or not being housed, but also mental health issues as well, lack of funding, lack of housing. And then you have people who've been homeless for so long and society has given up on them, you could give them a home and they wouldn't know how to function in society. So I encourage everyone who's working in this industry to know that you matter. We need you, because I know that we can end homelessness by housing one person at a time. You know, I don't have the money for it, but I know that collectively, if we all come together, sharing our experiences and pulling our resources together, encouraging, loving, and forgiving, we can end homelessness. You know, I went from living underneath a bridge for 10 years as a homeless drug addict, being raped, shot, stabbed, hit by a car, overdosed, tried to commit suicide. And today I present before you as Dr. Brenda Combs. The odds were not in my favor to survive coming from underneath the bridge. The odds were not in my favor to overcome 10 years of addiction and homelessness. The odds certainly weren't in my favor then to get a higher level degree, but I did it. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. But it takes all of us combined to help push that effort forward by ending homelessness, by helping one person at a time, if that's what it takes. But we in America have what it takes to end homelessness. And whatever I can do to help, please know that I'm willing to do anything that I can to help end homelessness, because I know personally the stigma, the pain, the fear, and the hurt of what homelessness, how it kills your dreams. And it not only kills your dreams, but affects not just the person that's homeless, but their friends, their family, and the overall community. So however your involvement is, it is appreciated, and never give up. Because you don't know if the next person you're saving could be the next president, another Dr. Brenda Combs, another Oprah, another director, another doctor, another scientist. You never know. The bottom line, everyone deserves the love and the compassion and to have a roof over their heads. So I'm appreciative of everyone that wants to help the homeless, because it's my heart's desire to end homelessness.
Dr. Brenda Combs, thank you so much for talking with me today. You're truly an inspiration. If you've been inspired by what you've heard, I invite you to learn more about Caritas by visiting our website at caritasofAustin.org and support our work to help end homelessness in Austin.